All right, well, good morning, everybody. I'm going to go through the slides, but I would encourage you if you have questions or want any kind of clarity to reach out. This is very much kind of a fluid thing at this point, especially with the change in our MLS and kind of how they're expecting certain things to look and be handled. So, please feel free to stop me at any point and just ask questions. So any property that is publicly marketed, just pretty much any standard listing like you would normally do it, needs to be put into MLS within one business day. So that's why you get an email if you don't have it in or MLS, or if you don't have your contract in MLS when it's in there, that kind of thing, is that once it's being publicly marketed, it needs to be in MLS where everybody can see it per Clear Cooperation Rules, which is the National Association of Realtors rule. So any kind of public marketing would be um, MLS, email blasts, brokerage sites, social media posts, and coming soon pages. So any of it is basically public facing things. So that's what is considered publicly marketed. So a coming soon page would need to be publicly marketed and have an MLS, or I'm sorry, a listing agreement signed as such that they do agree to that marketing. And we'll get into delayed listings and things like that later, but it has to be, if it's publicly marketed and the public can find it, then it needs to be put into MLS within one day. So there's a one-to-one rule that we've recently kind of gotten the ability from MLS for. So you may talk to people about off-market properties. However, it used to be, don't put it in writing, only have phone conversations or personal conversations with those people. Now you may do these things. So you can directly text it to an agent. You can still use the call or the obviously the in-person um, call or conversation, but you can direct text it to an agent. You can directly email it to a specific agent. So you can't just send it out to like everybody at Coldwell Banker or something like that. You have to send it to Mike Smith at whichever, you have to send it to one specific person. You cannot send it to more than one person at a time. It can't be in a chain text message. It has to be just to one person. Um, and then the private Facebook group for the brokerage. So you have to make sure that it's a private group. So, like our Keller Williams Facebook group, for instance, is a private Facebook group. So only people that are with Keller Williams licensed agents or, staff at Keller Williams has access to that page. So it could be shared there. Um, the photos and the address may be shared in those channels. So that is the only way that you are able to get the word out about that property for off-market properties. Again, you can't use something like MailChimp, any kind of drip campaign. You can't do the mass emails, any public-facing landing pages. So, sometimes people will create like one page marketing material for their listing. And you cannot do that if it's not in MLS or publicly facing. They've signed off that, they don't want the marketing for it. If it's public facing and the public can Google it and find it, it cannot be used. So it has to be all private. Um, you want to share it, making sure that you have the control about where it goes. If it starts kind of spider webbing out and going to other people, you could be considered liable for that going out too far and potentially hitting the public. So that's why it's really important to still um, be careful where you're sending it and who you're sending it to. So, questions that you'll want to ask yourself before you send out any of this information is this truly one-on-one communication? You need to have the seller's written permission. That's going to be with any of the marketing that you're going to do. You need something in writing from the seller explicitly saying that you have the ability to do any of these things, whether it's, doing a full-on listing, a one-party listing, or an excluded listing. You should always have that in writing before you send anything out. That's going to protect you and your license. Um, and then how you're sending it out, just kind of think in the back of your head, if this were to get to be a bigger deal, would I be able to defend this in front of a panel of my peers? So essentially, again, sending it out one-on-one, making sure that that person understands they are not to forward it on to anybody else, and then kind of keeping it tight, the group in which you're sharing that with. I kind of just went through this, but you want the written seller direction that you do have a limited marketing approach if you're planning to do an excluded or a single party. Um, that they're good with an office exclusive strategy, and any pre-market exposure that you'll be giving. They're comfortable with all of that, and that is in writing and signed off by them. So for delayed Keller Williams listing marketing, you can do that as long as it's signed. And it has to be, delayed listings need to be in MLS, just like any other listing. So it needs to be in MLS. And then it can be marketed at that point. Once it's in MLS, it can be marketed, to, you know, your social network, that kind of thing. This question pertains to, let's say, Bill Smith has a listing, from Keller Williams, and it's in delayed status. You would be able to market that listing as well as a Keller Williams agent, but you need to get listing agent explicit permission. You need to give the full agent credit and the full brokerage credit. So you would need to say, hey, this beautiful listing's coming soon. It's listed with Bill Smith of Keller Williams. Showings begin on X. That way, it's not misleading to consumers as to where the origin is from, who's got it listed, the brokerage that it's listed with, and that it is not publicly available to see, but it will be publicly available on X date. I just wanted to kind of go back through some of what the differences are in these types of listings. So, a single party listing is where there has been a specific buyer or buyers outlined that are identified and written into the contract. So, let's say you've got two different people that your seller is willing to sell to. It should say this contract is specific to, you know, Susie Q and Jimmy John. Um, and that would be the single party listing. And those are the people that would be able to be sold to. There is no marketing. An excluded listing means no MLS and no public marketing. This is where that one-on-one rule would apply. And then delayed listings are on MLS, and they can be marketed, but there is no unfair access allowed. Therefore, like, nobody can be getting in and looking at it with a client prior to that date. That's where the no unfair access comes in. Do we have any questions on any of that? It's not a ton of information, but it does get mixed up quite a bit.
I have a question on single party listing.
Yeah.
So for single party listing, the MLS 24-hour rules still apply, right? So they have to upload the listing contract on the MLS within 24 hours, but then we cannot market on MLS.
So with a single party, that's a good question. I don't actually know if a single party needs to be uploaded to MLS. Um, I would need to look into that because it's only needs to be uploaded to MLS if it's going to be put into MLS, from my understanding. But let me double check on that and I'll email you.
I think it's after after you
It
sell it
closes,
within a,
right?
yeah,
That's what I
within a
thought
certain
too.
amount of days.
Yeah, so that was my understanding too, Kathleen. So thank you. Is that you do need to put it in MLS as sold, and then you put like this was a single party in the comments, and then you upload kind of the listing contract in that. But
So
I'll
once we upload on the MLS, then it will show, or anyone that have the search, it will show up, right? Would they?
It's after you have an accepted offer. So like let's say you have the single party listing with Bill Smith. Bill Smith buys the house, the closing takes place, then you're going to put it into MLS just like you would any other sold. So you'd put 123 Main Street in MLS as sold. In the comment section, you would just write this is a single party for comp purposes, and then you can do the download of the document in that.
Oh, got it. So after we got the listing contact signed, we don't have to upload it on MLS right away until we got the accepted offer.
That's my understanding, but I am just going to double check because I certainly don't want you guys to get in trouble. So I'll email all of you once I get the um, appropriate way of doing that and let you know for sure. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay. Well, it was short and sweet. So thank you for swinging by, Kathleen.
Um, so when will we have more clarity? Because for delayed listings and it going to syndication and the Zillow partnership, and I might have missed it, you might have said this, but when will we have that knowledge of, is it going to the third party?
For Keller Williams, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not a huge part of that process, but my understanding is that Keller Williams, our office explicitly would be giving the permission for them to do that. Um, so I think it's up to you guys whether you want to allow it or not. I don't know exactly when it's supposed to start taking place. So I think at our next team meeting, we'll probably have more information. So not this week, but the following week on that. So I'll make note again of that to kind of give us an update on where that stands. Um, and we can kind of go from there.
Okay. Thank you. And do you have any further information about how the, and this is off topic, so I want to drop off, but how the RPR addition to the MLS just kind of snuck up on us or
Yeah.
snuck up on me?
Yeah, MLS just added it last week and sent out an email. I don't think anybody had like a heads up that it was coming or anything like that. I think it's just meant to be another integration, kind of like they have the mortgage calculator and things like that, where you could just kind of access it right from MLS versus having to like go open a separate tab, copy and paste all of that stuff.
Okay. Yeah. It just leads to a lot of interesting dialogue um, on these listings.
Who with whom, like the client or
Yeah, like if you look at the value, we all know that RPR sometimes, it's only as good as the inputs and what kind of comparables they're using.
Mhm.
So just
So you're saying clients can see it too?
I don't know if I could see it.
I don't think that clients can see it. I think it's just a part of what we are offered as agents.
Oh, okay. Well, that
So they would
helps.
still see the same information that they've always seen. The RPR is just meant to kind of, like you're saying, can be a tool. It's definitely not the end all be all, and it's definitely not always accurate. But I think it's just meant to show options, because a lot of people do use it to reference, or some people even use it to create their CMAs, because you can customize the houses that are in there and change the price based off of that. So I
Yeah.
think it was just meant to give one more option for you to just pull from MLS versus needing to open a different window, essentially.
So that would be the same case as if because right now I'm going to my remote MLS and it has a link in there for RPR, but maybe I'll have to see on the ones that I share with clients if that includes that information on there.
Yeah, I would be shocked if it does, honestly. Because we also have like Monsoon is on here, which you can, I don't know if you've ever clicked on that,
Yeah,
but that'll
yeah.
pull up, different comps and stuff in the area just as kind of a quick um, feed or the search comparables. I don't think the clients have access to any of that. I think that's all just for us to use as a tool.
Okay. Phew.
Yeah, we don't need any more Zillow questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Leah and Justin, I see you guys hopped on kind of. This was a pretty quick and straightforward one. So I can go back through if you would like.
Up to you. Or I was just gonna say if you could send me the slide that I missed prior to the questions one, that would be fine. But you
Sure.
can.
Yeah, there's a few of them. It's pretty
Okay.
straightforward. So um, I'll do it for you and Justin's benefit here. So basically, anything that's going to be publicly marketed needs to be put into MLS within 1 business day. So that is for clear cooperation. That's a National Association of Realtors rule. So public marketing would include any kind of social media post, email blasts, putting it on brokerage sites or coming soon pages. Sometimes, agents will make one landing page for the listing.
Hmm.
And that would need to be then signed off on as like publicly marketed and not like a delayed listing or I'm sorry, excluded. Um,
So
so off
actually,
mark. Hey Justin, what's up?
hey, so I have a question. So
Sure.
is the distinction between property being off market and single party, well, sorry, excluded, is that, I guess, what is the distinction?
So basically there are three different things. Well, there's obviously like a regular listing too, but a
Right.
single party listing is any kind of listing where a specific buyer has been outlined. So
Hmm.
sometimes you'll see people say, "Hey, I could get a single party listing for a place in Bayview." It's these are kind of the specifics. And you could reach out and say, "Hey, I have a buyer." They would ask for the buyer's name and then they would make it
Hmm.
specific to that buyer. So that would be a single party. So they'd have to write like this agreement is specific to Bill Smith in their
Right.
listing contract. So that's a single party. An excluded listing is that there is a listing contract available, but there is no marketing included. The only
Hmm.
marketing that can be included is the one-on-one rule, which I'll go backwards and show you. But there should be no public marketing with an excluded listing, and it is not in MLS. And then the delayed listing is you have the accepted, or I'm sorry, the listing contract, and that
Hmm.
is, it's going to be going live at a specific date, down the line.
Right.
So I'll go back here. So the one-on-one rule is what we found out from MLS just recently, like, I don't know, like 3 weeks ago, maybe, was that
Hmm.
they do now. Before it was if you had an excluded listing, you had to have the conversation like verbally or
Right.
like phone call or in person.
Hmm.
Now they have kind of changed that to be that you can directly text an agent, you can directly email an agent, and you can put it in private Facebook groups for the brokerage. Um, you can share photos and addresses in those channels. The biggest differentiator here is that you cannot send it out mass. Like you cannot send a
Hmm.
mass email out to a bunch of agents and say, "Hey, I've got this listing." It has to be one-on-one.
Right.
And the concern or like for you in your license is if it spider webs out too much,
Hmm.
then you are liable for the people that it reaches that weren't the intended audience. So
Wow.
that's why you want to do directly to an agent, directly to like an email to that agent, um, and make sure that they understand that you need a little control about how you're sharing it. So like, hey,
Right.
this is an excluded listing. Please do not share without my explicit permission or whatever. So what they should be doing, so like let's say you send a property to Leah and Leah's like, "Oh, I know like, you know, Jimmy from my office was looking for something just like this." And then she forwards it to Jimmy. Well, that's where that problem comes in because now it's kind of spider webbing out. What Leah
Hmm.
should do is say, "Hey, Justin, I think Jimmy's got a buyer. Maybe you reach out to him directly or whatever." It's just meant to be like more direct and more
Hmm.
personal and not mass. So you can't do like a MailChimp campaign and send it out to all the agents you know, or you can't do like a one page landing page that the
Hmm.
public can find, stuff like that. So you want to try and share it with as much control as possible that like that
Hmm.
you're able to do that. Does that make sense?
It does. Thanks for the
Uh,
clarification.
sure. So basically, what I kind of put together is three rules to ask yourself. Is this truly a one-on-one communication? You making sure that you do have the seller's written permission before you're even having that communication. And then, kind of a good thing to think about with just any of this stuff is would you be able to defend your point on this in front of a panel? So, if you say, hey, I have this property, 123 Main Street available as an excluded listing, please do not share with any unintended parties or something like that. Um, could you defend that? That sounds more defendable than, if you were going to be just sending it out to everybody with the same blurb and then it spider webs out too much. So just a couple things to think about before you do that. Um, Again, to protect yourself and your license, make sure it's in writing. That's always something that's important. And that they're agreeing to the limited marketing approach, that they're agreeing to an office exclusive strategy, and any kind of pre-market exposure, that they fully understand what's happening in terms of marketing their house.
Okay, that makes
Um,
sense.
Yeah. And so then this delayed KW listing marketing. So basically, if something's in delayed, it can be marketed by that person, right? They can say, like, hey, this is in delayed, goes live on, May 1st. And this is if another agent within ML or Keller Williams wanted to market a Keller Williams delayed listing, they could do that as well. But they can only do it if the listing agent gives them explicit permission to do so. So like if Leah had a beautiful listing and you were like, hey, I'm going to market this on my page, she would have to give you full permission to do that, full agent credit, full brokerage credit. And then like this is live on May 1st or whatever it is. There can't be any, um, oops, unfair access. So you can't, obviously there'd be no showings prior to that date, that kind of thing, but you can market the property, um, through of Keller Williams is what I just found out from MLS like 3 days ago. So
That's good to know because,
yeah,
yeah, prior to now, we always thought we had to wait for everything. So it's only within the brokerage, though, right?
from my understanding, yes. So I wouldn't do it outside of the brokerage until we get clearance otherwise. But I called and explicitly asked them, and I got it straight from the rule maker. So
Okay, good to know.
yeah, so that was the main nuts and bolts of it.
Can we go back to your first slide when you said the one-on-one? So for, oh, the 24 hours. If you
Oh,
put something on social media, it has to be in MLS within one business day.
correct. And that's if you have a live listing.
Got you. So with the I kind of just wanted to make that point clear was it
Yes.
have you would have to have the listing agreement in place to do that anyway.
Yes.
Mm.
So like if you didn't put it in MLS, but you were like putting it all over your social media, that would be a problem because not everybody's getting that same information in the same real time.
Okay.
If it's supposed to be publicly marketed if it's not a delayed listing.
Okay. Got it. Thanks for the recap.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'll add you guys to the list. I'm double checking a couple things. One being if there's a single party listing contract, if you're supposed to upload it to MLS right away or email it to them. My understanding has always been that you do it like in MLS when you go to close in MLS, like saying this was a single party listing. But I'm not sure if they require you to email it before that or not. So I'm going to email everybody with that clarity.
Okay. Yep. That's the understanding I had too. I mean, that's what I was taught with the single party. It's just upon closing, but
Right. Well, I'll find out for sure and I'll let everybody know, but that was the only thing we were going to double check on today.
sounds good.
All right.